I will start with a question to get the ball rolling. So the question is to Mr. Mark Frons. So you work for the New York Times, right? So let's imagine this. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. It's late. No one's at work. You're pulling an all-nighter. What would happen if you were to place my picture by mistake on the front cover of the New York Times?
If I did it, I would be working with you in Dubai. Right.
It's a tax-free environment. You love it. All right. Cool. So you're going to do it?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So we're going to have one more person moving here. First question. There you go.
Hi, how are you, Mark? I have a question about your monetization strategy. Being an international brand, do you look beyond the US to monetize off your apps and your websites?
Yes, international is going to be a core part of our strategy. We recently announced that we own the International Herald Tribune. We recently announced that we're taking that brand and calling that the International New York Times. So we believe that there is a huge market internationally for the New York Times. About 30% of our traffic comes internationally, yet it's maybe 2% of our subscriptions. So look for us to be introducing new international products next year. We have a local language site in China, as some of you know. We're planning other local language sites, but really we think, because English is such an important part of the world in terms of the language that's spoken, that we'll be using our English language brand, but make it much easier for people to purchase internationally.
Fantastic. Do we have any other questions? Gentleman in the back. There we go.
Thank you. That was very good presentations from both of you. What I would like to know is, have you integrated your mobile strategy with your CSR? And are you doing anything for the education sector?
Thank you.
Let you take that.
Are we doing anything for education sector?
So integrating with CSR and anything for education.
So in terms of education or edutainment, I guess you would call it, firsthand as a father of 2 kids, I think it's a fantastic opportunity. I know my 9-year-old daughter has integrated with some multiplication apps that have helped her learn her times tables, which is fantastic. At EA, we're not making edutainment projects at the moment, but interestingly enough, it's a market that we see springing up, particularly across social networks as well. So we're seeing a lot of Facebook apps that are going into that direction, and it's something that we'll certainly monitor.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you. It was an interesting presentation. I just have a question regarding the online gaming. Are you considering any partners with the operators in terms of the online gaming, or you keep it to the end users' experience and their demand to influence the operators to give more good experience about that?
Partnerships are absolutely fundamental to us. And in this region, we have a product called Command & Conquer Tiberian Alliances, which is our first free-to-play online game that has been localized into Arabic, and we have a whole customer services division that's outsourced to a partner. It's going to be a much more important part of our business as the online gaming space grows, certainly from a free-to-play, pay-later perspective. So whether it be cloud servers, whether it be billing systems, whether it be monetization companies, we're going to have to work with that whole chain, and it's not something that we want to own sort of ourselves 100%. So absolutely.
It's fantastic. We have the gentleman sitting by himself in the front seat.
Yes, my question to Mark. You mentioned that your business is basically relying on advertisement. This is one part of it is advertisement, the other part is subscription, but I guess advertisement is the main fueling engine for the business. But this is not my question. I just so the question now is that today, when you are basically penetrated more into the newspaper as a printed news, you are basically controlling the advertisement, or you basically owning that space for you. when you move towards the digital space, are you concerned that the advertisement basically might be shared by more than one player, meaning that telcos, internet service providers, mobile advertisement, they probably might come and share that revenue from you. So
That's right.
could you give us your views on this?
Thank you.
So that is already happening in the sense that in the digital realm, newspapers used to be a monopoly. There was only one game in town, right? So yes, we are seeing that sort of disruption across the board. So ad networks have been a major disruptive force. We work with Google, and they're a great partner for us. Nonetheless, the rates that you can charge for digital, and certainly even for mobile, have been declining, not increasing, because the inventory is unlimited in the digital realm. There's as well as that. So to your earlier question, advertising used to be, say, 70% of our revenue mix. I think last year, for the first time, subscriptions, consumer revenue outstripped advertising. So more and more, the Times is becoming a subscription-led company and not an advertising. Advertising is still essential, but probably less essential as time goes on.
Now we move from the front of the room to the very end of the room with the gentleman how's your coffee? Awesome, okay, so you're awesome too. Here's the awesome microphone for you.
Hi, first of all, great talk by both of you. My question is that both of you mentioned about entering new markets and gave emphasis on partnerships, and you mentioned about using a local language for China. So can you give us some tips on what are the things you consider for entering new markets, considering that discovery is one of the most challenging part for app developers. So what are the things you consider, like what's the go-to market plan for entering new markets?
So I guess I'll start with that one. I think, as I said, 3 ingredients have to be there, and all 3 have to be there. And I think we've seen in many markets 2 of the 3 are there, but not all of them. And the 3 ingredients are discovery, experience, and billing. So we see a lot of app stores, a lot of merchandising opportunities in many markets. Not just new markets, but existing markets and traditional sort of Western markets, whereby discovery is pretty good, the app store looks great, the experience and technology of the devices is good enough to give a great gaming experience, and then it all falls to pieces because you can't bill. There hasn't been integration with carriers. It might be a market where credit card adoption is very, very low. So we look at a market based on those 3 parameters. And if those 3 parameters are there, then we'll certainly consider. Of course, there's things like the regulatory environment and all those sort of things that we'd look at as a usual course of business. But fundamentally, from an end user perspective, to see that if we can build a great business in that market, those 3 stars have to align, if you like.
Fantastic. Do we have any other questions? Lady in the back. Did you manage to get Wi-Fi? No Wi-Fi, huh? Okay. You can use my hotspot.
My question's just for Mark. So just wondering how you reconcile the conflict between your own subscriptions and ad revenue from users accessing content on the site with partnering with people like Flipboard and Windows 8, when that would kind of disperse your audience and you probably wouldn't get as great a profit from the revenue share with those partners, and you're basically giving the content away to users for free.
So it's a great question. When we first started the NYT Anywhere program, those were exactly the kinds of questions we asked ourselves. But we thought we have to experiment. We have to try new things. We know that there are many users out there who like an aggregated experience, right? And in fact, that's something we're really thinking about ourselves. So we never give away all of our content. We're limiting access. The way Flipboard works, for example, is you only get a few stories a day. However, if you're a subscriber to the New York Times, you can authenticate through and read the New York Times on Flipboard, which is a pretty cool experience. So we think that, the jury's still out, but we're seeing subscribers that we probably wouldn't have had otherwise. So giving a little bit away, that's okay. We give a little bit away to Apple today to be in iTunes. We don't particularly like it, but on the other hand, we get a lot of subscriptions through newsstands. So it's kind of the price you pay for distribution.
Thank you. And you have a question from the lady in the front first class seat.
Hi, great presentations from both of you and fantastic visions for amazing brands. What do you see as the greatest barriers to adoption that the industry should work on collectively? And I should confess, I run MEF, which is the global community for mobile content and commerce. So we look at both the challenges and opportunities that we should work on together. And a related question around your multi-screen strategies and how mobile fits into that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure. It doesn't seem like adoption has been a problem, right? The way things are growing. However, I think monetization for publishers is a huge issue. How we, make it easier for people to pay, I think is crucial. Just as sort of we've made it easier for people to call and text and do other things, and how we make it easier for publishers to create content. I mean, the different standards are really sort of an issue for us. We know that we're going to be in an Android and iOS world for a while, but now we've got HTML5 to worry about, we have BlackBerry to worry about. So I think not everyone has the resources of EA and the New York Times, and I think that's a real issue for the publishing community.
Thank you. I think maybe Ziad might have a burning question for either Mark or Peter, or both.
First, I have to say it's an amazing audience, because usually we prepare questions in case we don't get anything from the audience. And practically speaking, like what happened with Peter, I did not prepare with the audience, but they asked most of my questions. So
Exactly.
Thank you again.
And I wanted an opportunity for you to speak as well, so please
But
go
I
ahead.
still have a couple of questions. So first, Peter, and you're, you're the vice chairman of the Mobile Entertainment Forum, and entertainment is the keyword, I guess. Mobile entertainment. How much is mobile entertainment and gaming specifically taking out of the overall entertainment share in a user's day?
So, without quoting statistics, because I'll get it wrong, we see whenever an app store launches across any platform, gaming is the number one category that users that users flock towards. So that's fantastic. As part of the work that MEF do, sort of related to both questions, a barrier to entry is always going to be things like piracy. Yeah, piracy is rife in mobile. We don't get as much talk about it as we did in the sort of physical good product world, but it is an issue, and that's a barrier to entry in certain markets. So whether it be privacy or the regulatory environment of a particular region or country, that's something that we look at. But to your point, in terms of the entertainment space, we have some issues around fragmentation, of course, as gaming. We don't have the kind of one file size fits all that our friends in music and film tend to have. When device manufacturers come out with fantastic new devices, but with higher resolution screens, bigger screens, then we have to change our development processes with that. And the way that we tackle that is by partnering with those technology vendors to make sure that we're not only reacting to the market, we're trying to influence the products and capabilities that they make. I joked about heat dissipation, but we have worked with ARM and Samsung to reduce the heat dissipation that comes out of some of our bigger games. So all of those things sort of contribute to make gaming and entertainment in general a fantastic opportunity on mobile.
Mark, the New York Times is nicknamed the Grey Lady, and it's a pretty old Grey Lady. It was founded in 1851, so practically a 160-year-old company, yet you are at the forefront of innovation. I mean, born in 1851, but really born mobile today. We've seen your widgets, you've seen your apps, the first Google Chrome app, you have your HTML5 app, you're even the first third-party downloadable app on Google Glass. How do you do that? How can this company transform in such a way?
So I think I really credit the owners of the New York Times company, the Schultzberger family, even though it's a publicly traded company, it's family owned, who had the vision to say, we are a content company, but we're also a technology company, and have given me and my team the resources that we need to really thrive. But it comes down to really thinking like a technology company, to giving our developers and our journalists the tools. So we have a team of developers who sit down in the newsroom, and I was a journalist before making this journey as a technologist, and my belief was that in this digital age, technology and journalism are inexorably intertwined. So you can't separate the two. So I think the Times has really embraced that. It's really thought like a technology company, and now we're kind of trying to move even further and looking at the really successful tech companies out there and saying, how can we adopt some of their methodologies, some of their techniques, because things are moving so much faster now. So it's pretty exciting.
Amazing. Thank you very much, sir.
Do we have any other questions from the audience? Yes, sir. To you?
Hi, it's a question for Peter and Mark. How do you address age demographics within the industry? If you take somebody like my mother who's 71 years old and she can't live without her iPad, and she's now asked me to buy her a smartphone, right down to my nephew who's 3 years old, who again can't live without an iPad.
Thank you very much.
Sure, you can start.
Great question. I thought it was going to be about regulation, but it's about your mother, so that's great. So it's very, very important as a game publisher to have a balanced portfolio, and I think us as much as anybody else has literally something for everybody. So Scrabble for your mother, maybe, and Tetris or Bejeweled or Plants vs. Zombies, and everything in between. If you're an avid racing fan, you've got Real Racing that is a adrenaline-fueled, sort of graphically intense, furious experience. Or if we'll have shooting games such as Medal of Honor and Battlefield coming to the platform. We've got something for the sports fan, whether it be football, basketball, or golf. So having a balanced portfolio for everybody is crucial to us, and we are very, very sort of adamant not to make games that we like, but to make games that our customers continually tell us they like and how they would like them to be improved. And that's the beautiful thing of having sort of direct communication with the end consumer, is they will tell you, and it's a very vocal audience, and they will tell you when they like things, and they will certainly tell you when they don't like things as well. So a balanced portfolio with something for everybody.
So your mother and your nephew will be happy with both. Do we have any other questions? This side, middle, left. Ziad?
Yes, always. Mark, I did some research and I was very curious when I read about another innovation that you have done in-house and outside, which is Beta 620 and the deep dive. So maybe you can tell the audience a little bit more about that.
Sure. So a few years ago, we had this issue. We hold technology contests and challenges in-house for our developers to see if we can get some bottom-up innovation. And some of them would turn out to be products that we'd actually launch on our website. But many of them just didn't quite make it, but were really interesting and really good, and we weren't sure. So we created a website we call Beta 620. 620 is the address of our building on 8th Avenue in Manhattan, where anyone at the company can create an app, an interactive experience, where and then put it up on the site and let the public be the judge. So we're really moving toward this idea, almost like a Google of beta all the time. So we're constantly experimenting with that. So it's been very popular. We've got a number of innovations out of it, including something called Deep Dive, which allows you to kind of, take a look at any given article and then mine our archive for all sorts of other information about it, just sort of instantly in one interface. It was just came up with by a developer who was not a journalist, but who really sort of embraced that kind of ethos of journalism.
Amazing. Peter, EA Mobile is the fastest growing unit in Electronic Arts today, and typically companies tend to resist new things and then I don't know what happens. Today you're proving that you're fastest growing. How does this fit within Electronic Arts overall?
I think much like, as Mark said, having the vision from the top is incredibly important. But vision from the top is worthless if the developers and the executive producers or the sort of rock stars of our industry aren't convinced. So Kaz, who is executive producer of our FIFA product, is not just responsible for the next generation console version of that product. He's responsible for 13 different platforms, all the way down to Java. And for him, he has to take a huge amount of pride in curating, an experience for all those platforms. What we haven't done is hive off certain divisions. So, one guy makes the console game and someone else makes the mobile game. We think it's incredibly important to keep the creative control so that they can bring what mobile brings to the game alive, and that remains with one team and one studio. So everyone is bought into mobile. They've had to learn fast, and sometimes we've had to fail fast, and that's fine. But I think it's absolutely getting buy-in from the creators of the content themselves, and also working with great partners. And a really good example would be the team at Gracie with our Simpsons product. I mean, that product is all about the content. It's all about how funny the content is and bringing a sort of TV show-like mentality to the production. So it's all about episodal content, and it's the humor that comes from Gracie that comes out in that. So I think those two factors are fun, absolutely fundamental. And anyone you would ask within the organization at EA would tell you that mobile is, a top priority. So it seems to be working.
Fantastic. I think we have two final questions here. We have the gentleman on my left and then the gentleman there. We'll get to you in a second. So let's start here.
Thank you. First of all, it's a great honor to have you and listen to your views on how the publishing is transforming these days. Coming to the question, as publishers, we keep on talking about how mobile has a very important role to play in publishing. But I think we need to focus back on our conventional print or publishing, which is the newspapers. Do you have any strategy to sort of revitalize the print industry by maybe adding a few features like augmented reality, which is kind of on the high right now? Thank you.
So we have a traditionalist. I believe this question goes to Mark Frons.
Sure. No, I was going to have Peter answer that one, actually.
We have no plan to get into the newspaper business.
I wish I had a revitalization strategy. I think what we see happening in print, at least in the United States and our core market, is circulation is really strong. I mean, maybe we lose 1% or 2% a year, but that's hanging tough. And in fact, with price increases, we're actually getting more revenue from print circulation. The problem is print advertising. So print advertising is declining for the Times and other publishers at roughly 10% a year. And since that is the lion's share of revenue, that's a lot of money. And so our strategy really is how do we slow that decline, because we see that decline as inevitable. We don't see a younger audience of advertisers in print. There's just too many other choices in digital, and the science around digital advertising has made it more effective. So our challenge is to figure out how do we take this wonderful thing that is print and our print business and manage it so that we can make the transition to digital. I wish I had better news.
All right, we have one more question here.
Hi, Peter. A former animator at EA from Redwood Shores in San Francisco. Worked on Lord of the Ring, Return of the King, and all these wonderful games. I'm really glad that we're moving into the mobile platform. And my question for you was, remember how long it took for Spore to come out and get approved through the whole pipeline? From the head all the way down, and they kept going back and forth. Now that we're venturing into the mobile platform, are there any or more leniency in creating more different diversity of games or different genres, or that now that the platform is a lot more flexible?
So the platform is, as you say, much more flexible. It's also, in certain cases, a lot less costly to develop for this platform. And I think, the fail fast mentality absolutely must apply in this platform. And I think the way that our studios are developed, they're very much encouraged to create IP. 100% owned IP is obviously the best IP there is, because you own it, you don't pay any royalties on it, it's yours to manage and deploy as you wish. So absolutely, they have the rights to innovate, develop, not just innovate new IP, but also innovate new ways of delivering current IP. Trying to reformat and reconstitute a console game on a mobile would be the wrong thing to do. Making a made-for-mobile experience is absolutely what our studios must do. I find it kind of ironic that we're seeing a lot of peripherals at the moment that are bringing sort of analog joysticks and thumb controls to smartphones, which is something that we've kind of moved away from that, and we're developing games that work for touchscreens, and that's what we like to do, and that's where we think the biggest market is. So that's absolutely fundamental. The other thing is, through our Chilingo business, we have a kind of perfect insight as to see what the independent developer community is doing. And as I think I said in my talk, they are the lifeblood of this community, and we spot trends, we spot talent, we spot new themes coming out of that community that we can bring back into our own studios, which is fabulous, and gives independent developers, wherever they are in the world, however many there are, an opportunity to play within the big marketplaces as well, which we think is a huge advantage for them.
I believe that ends our Q&A for this current session. So we would like to thank very, very much from Electronic Arts, Mr. Peter Parmenter, and from the New York Times, Mr. Mark Frons. A round of applause, please.